Hi everyone, it's Marla. Welcome back to Twinstrology, where we talk about twin flames, ascension, and astrology. And today we're going to talk about the Lion's Gate and the radical change that we're all going to be implementing at the Lion's Gate. So, the time period that I want to cover today is from July 28th, and that's the new moon in Leo, until August 11th, which is the Aquarius full moon. And really, one of the important shifts that's happening at this Lion's Gate is we have the planets, some of the planets, the sun, Mercury, soon to be Venus, and of course, we'll have the moon in Leo. And that's going to be triggering that T square we've been talking about all year with the nodes, and asteroid Karma, and Uranus, and Saturn, and Union. It's taking that T square and it's making it into a fixed grand cross. So that's where a lot of the intensity is going to be coming from. The other thing is that there's going to be a lot of activations happening. So let's let's talk about the activations first, actually, and then I'll get into the astrology a little bit more in the T square. So I feel like at this time, especially between that Leo new moon and the 8-8 portal, that's when the activations are going to be most intense. Now, the activations are going to be activations of our light body. Remember, when we're at Lionsgate, we are aligned with Sirius. That's our great central sun. So we get a lot of light activations during this time normally, but this year they're going to be even more intense. So there could likely be some solar energy from our sun affecting it as well, solar flares, solar storms. And I'm also getting that for some of you, there could be kundalini activations as well. And those will probably be around the 8-8 portal and that Aquarius full moon energy. But the activations are coming in because we really need to raise our frequency. Now, the last couple readings that I did for the Twin Flame Collective, I mean, it was very, very clear that there were activations happening because we need to raise our frequency. And this 8-8 portal is going to be a big increase in our frequency. So not only is Lionsgate when we align with Sirius, but we also have Lughnasad happening on August 1st is generally when it's celebrated. And that's when we honor the sun god Lu, the Celtic sun god. So that's another synchronization that lets us know that it's a time where we have these solar activities happening. And so with these activations, it may feel like you're under even more pressure because it's this time where we, really need to start changing. Now, what we've really been doing the first half of the year is changing our inside. We've been changing our programming. We've been looking at the things we believe and how those things are reflected external to us, how they're limiting us, and we've been trying to get rid of these patterns. And I feel like if you've been doing a good job with that, then you're probably going to be in good shape to come through this Lion's Gate and start working on embodying the new you. If you've been resisting looking at yourself, going within, kind of checking out your own shadow or beginning to understand your own projections and how those projections are being reflected back to you, then this energy is probably going to be more intense for you. And probably for a lot of the collective in general, this is going to be a really intense time, especially that Aquarius full moon. So, just be compassionate with people around you, because people could be a little more intense or nervous than usual. So now going back to the astrology. So as I said, we have these planets moving into Leo, and this is turning that T square into a fixed cross. And first up is going to be Mercury at the Leo new moon. And Mercury will be at 18 degrees of Leo. We have the nodes at 19 degrees, Uranus at 18 degrees, conjunct the North Node, Mars at 15, conjunct Uranus in the North Node, and we have Saturn over there with union at 23 degrees. So and Karma is exactly on the South Node at 19 degrees. So it's a lot of planetary energy in this cross. And with Mercury being here, especially, that's about really changing the mind, the way we think, the way we are perceiving things. So that's going to be like, it will be kind of an intense period, I feel. And again, like this has been intense since the summer solstice. Personally, I've been doing loads of clearing of programs. So I'm kind of laughing to myself thinking, well, how much how much worse could it get? But it's like we just have to keep plowing through it, because we have some things coming up in September, and then we have eclipses in October and November. And it's just in our best interest to do as much of this clearing now, so that we're in better shape for what is coming. And like I said, for those that are resisting it, things could get, much more intense, or much more, I want to say painful, but, maybe not physically painful, but just um, like what I'm feeling is like, how you wring something out. It could be like you feel like you're in a wringer. But with karma on the South Node, this is the perfect time for us to let go of the old us, to really get clear on what we don't want to bring with us anymore. And there is a lot of mystical kind of Sabians that are activated at this new moon as well. And I feel that's going to really be helping us. The Sabian symbol for this new moon is an old-fashioned conservative woman is confronted by an up-to-date girl. So this is another sign that we are definitely in this shift from the old us to the new us. Now, I mentioned those mystical Sabians. We have Jupiter going retrograde on the same day as the new moon. And this is happening a lot this year, that there's a new moon or a full moon, and then a planet shifting direct or retrograde on the exact same day, which is also intensifying the energy. And really, in years past, what we would have is a wave of energy that would come and crest, and then it would slow down a bit, and then there'd be another wave of energy, and that would crest, and then there'd be another. We had little breaks, but this year it's like there's no more waves. It's just like an escalator going up and up and up and up, and there's no kind of rest period. And I think that's probably what a lot of people are finding intense about this year is we're just going from one thing to another to another. It makes it kind of difficult to talk about the energy, at least for me to talk about, because it isn't segmented. Everything's just like kind of flowing together. But anyways, going back to Jupiter, which is going retrograde in Aries on the Sabian symbol. a seer gazes intently into a crystal ball before him. For me, this is saying that we need to work on our vision for the future. Now, before Jupiter went into Aries, Jupiter met up with Neptune in Pisces, and that was when you got inspired for some dream that you wanted to create. And then when Jupiter went into Aries, you started to create that dream. But now that dream needs to be upgraded. It needs to be expanded, because now that you've cleared so much, you're ready to make that dream bigger, or you're ready to go for something more than you were before. So now with Jupiter retrograde, he's going back into Pisces, where you can get clarity on, what's the word I'm looking for? It's refining. You're refining that dream. And then when he goes direct back into Aries, once again, that dream will start coming into materialization. Now, that's not to say that things aren't going to be materializing and manifesting while Jupiter is in retrograde, because they certainly will be. But Jupiter has a lot to do with our wealth and our abundance. So it might be particularly connected to finances, maybe for some of you. And then we have Saturn in union on the Sabian symbol about, wish I could memorize these. A man turning his back on his passions teaches deep wisdom from his experience. So letting go of the material world, right? The passions comes from the sensual world. And when you let that go, you're going to reach a higher state of enlightenment. Really, the Sabian symbol is about overcoming some part of our ego, which is a big part of this healing that is happening, because we're going deeper into our heart. And it's this heart energy is definitely at this point now where the heart is taking over our ego. At least for a lot of people, a lot of light workers at this time are ready to come into that that phase of their journey. Like I said, not everybody is, and there's certainly still a lot of people in the collective that are still living a lot from their ego. Again, not saying there's any kind of judgment with that, but those that are ready to really start manifesting need to make this transition, because the manifesting is all about the heart. And so this heart energy is really the divine feminine energy, which is getting very boosted at the Lion's Gate. And then what it's doing is it's healing our masculine energy. A good way to look at it is when our feminine is wounded, the masculine picks up the slack, but often the masculine picks up the slack by creating a strong defense, by creating walls, by hiding from what's inside, by avoiding looking at one's own projections. And we don't need that anymore. With Mars coming into a conjunction with the North Node and Uranus and activating one leg of that fixed cross, it's like we don't need the masculine to do that anymore. The masculine is free, and a lot of the activations that are coming in are a healing activation of this masculine energy. So the inner masculine within all of us is more able to look at those projections and how those projections are being mirrored back to us, and understanding that piece of it. And our masculine energy is also in a deeper state of surrender. at this Lion's Gate. There's more a sense of being able to let go and just allow things to take its course instead of resisting everything. And a lot of the resistance comes in from not being able to see, or not wanting to see, or dealing with a lot of subconscious that we just weren't aware of. But with this increase in our feminine and our vibration, it's really helping to shift this. Now, with that increase in vibration, it could be causing a lot of tension in areas of our lives, especially karmic relationships and karmic situations. Really, there's three ways that we're dealing with this energy of karma: the relationship, the situation, and the inner karma, meaning our programs, or the patterns that we've developed for self-protection and for survival, and needing to shed those. We're all working on the patterns and the programs. Some of us have already come away from a lot of the karmic stuff. Some of us haven't. Again, there's no judgment. Everybody's at a different place. But regardless, everything changes only when we change what's inside of us. And that's why there's been this really heavy focus on needing to look at our projections and our programs to get to this point where we don't need people to mirror things for us. Or won't say we don't need it, because I don't know if there'll ever come a time where we don't have people mirroring things to us. But what I mean is, we don't need to get so triggered by it. It's like we can witness the projections and we can work through them. It's like untangling a knot. We can work through them and resolve them. Where in the past, when our masculine had to protect us so much, we weren't able to do that. It was too threatening. It's too threatening to the self. And we would avoid that. We weren't able to see the projection. So to get to this stage and your spiritual development is really a blessing, and really creates a massive amount of inner change. Now, also getting into our heart is creating a lot of self-acceptance. And with this kind of radical change is this radical acceptance of the self. Because if we want to be this new new person that we are, we have to find that love for ourselves. You, as a light worker, you're on the forerunner of this. So when you come out as who you truly are, and you come out as your truth, chances are there's going to be people around you that don't understand you, that want to reject you, that are still so much in their projections that they can't really see what's going on a subconscious level for them. So we all need to really be strong so that we can hold this truth of who we are, even in the face of naysayers or people that want to judge or criticize us. Not that I think it will be that bad, but well, what I want to talk about, and I guess we'll talk about this now, is one of the ways that things are really shifting right now is with the karmic relationships. Or it could be a situation if you or your person is not in a relationship. But, we've talked about this throughout the year. These karmic relationships are on borrowed time. And there's an increase in that tension of karmic relationships at the Lion's Gate. Now, for some of you, you might be wondering, could it get even more intense? Well, yes, it can. And the more you resist, the more intense it's going to get. For example, if you don't start shifting this now, then when it comes to October and November, when we have eclipses combined with Mars retrograde, well, then things are really going to get intense, and they will keep getting intense until you take action to implement the new you and to create the change away from that in your life. Because I don't think I said this in this video, but I hope I didn't. But what's happening is our vibration is going up so much that a lot of things are not in alignment with us, right? And for a lot of karmic relationships, that's happened quite a while ago, where more and more and more you're not in vibrational alignment with that other person. But if you're just holding on and you're trying to maintain that, you just create a lot of conflict and butting heads with that other person. And because really this whole year is just a big increase in vibration. And yeah, I know that that's kind of what awakening is. But like I said at the beginning, where we have these waves and the waves come and go. And right now it's just like, no waves. It's just we're going up and up and up. And you can't really, I won't say you can't stop your vibration from raising, but we have kind of reached a point of no return here if you're on the ascension path. So there's really no going back, and you'll just keep not being aligned, or I should say becoming less and less and less aligned with that other person until something snaps. And what could happen if you're not making the change, right? And you're not doing the inner work to look at your own perception, projections of things, this other person is going to keep like mirroring all this stuff back to you until you get very uncomfortable, and vice versa. You're doing the same to them. And, you know, it's all about being in your heart, and it's time to kind of move out of the ego ways and move into the heart ways, right? And if you're resisting being in your heart, you're going to feel it in your heart. You're going to feel it has emotional pain because you're not living your truth. And that's what you came here to do. So that's how relationships are going to play out for the rest of the year. Now, I know a lot of people want to know, because I'm talking about that 9-year cycle, and people want to know, well, are the relationships ending? Well, indeed, a lot of them are, but I can't say, like, on this date, they're all going to end, because each person is responsible for their own situation. And what my guides keep telling me is it's up to that person when they're going to leave, when they're going to decide that enough is enough. But for most people that are in these very kind of challenged karmic relationships, like, again, it's past the point of no return. Because when you're in a relationship and it just keeps going downhill, you just get so hurtful to each other that at some point it's impossible to feel that level of love with them that you once had. It's like there's too much water under the bridge, and it just won't work. So it's like, why continue to hold on to that? And I'm sure everybody that's in that situation is going to have reasons for why they're holding on to it, but ultimately they're getting called to look into their heart and really come to terms with who they are, what their truth is, and what they want their life to be. So going back to the astrology, sorry, I got off on that little tangent. Another thing that's happening here through the Lion's Gate is Venus is coming into a square with Chiron, and this is just starting to happen at the Leo new moon. So very often when we have Venus and Chiron in a hard aspect, it brings up heartbreak. Well, this is something else that I want to mention is, I feel at this time, with the heart expansions and everything that we'll be going through that has twins, there's going to be some hurt, some frustration perhaps about not being together, or not. What I'm really getting is regret, and it's regret on both sides, maybe in a slightly different way. um, but if you're not with your twin, you're likely to be feeling some kind of regret about why you let that slip away, why you didn't take action, or if you did take action, you still have regrets that at this point in time things aren't working out, and feeling that kind of pain and frustration that things aren't working out. There's also an awakening here involved with this Lion's Gate as well. And, the more we get into our heart energy, the more awake we become. So I think for twins, that awakening will be part of this understanding about the whole situation with your twin flame and kind of where that energy is at. So let's talk about Lughnasad for a moment, which is August 1st, is generally when it's celebrated in modern times. And this is the day that pagans celebrate the god Lu. This is the harvest festival, the first harvest where the grain is harvested. And the importance of Lughnasad this year is because Mars, the North Node, and Uranus are all going to be in exact conjunction on that 18th degree of Taurus, and really setting off that grand cross. So this is when we really start feeling like we're becoming the new us. This is going to be a big shift. It's like we now have the drive and the fortitude with that Leo new moon to go after what we want. Remember, Leo itself is heart energy. That's why the Lion's Gate is important, and why we have heart activations at Lion's Gate. We're dealing with the heart. Leo is also creativity. Love affairs as well, but that creativity is playing a major role here, because as we move through Lion's Gate and into the September and fall equinox energy, this is all going to be about manifestation, and the universe is really striving to get each of us into our highest place that we can be when the manifestation starts happening. So we don't want to be manifesting from the old energy. We want to be manifesting from the new energy. And there is a lot here, Sabian wise, that kind of talks about this old energy and releasing it. Let me just check a couple of these Sabians. Okay, so the 18th degree of Taurus is a new continent is rising out of the ocean. Okay, so it's almost like that energy of the Sabian is a whole new you, is emerging. Now, Saturn and Union are on that one, a big trained bear sitting down and waving all of its paws. And so that's about the old energy of kind of just doing things like you're a trained bear, doing the same thing over and over again because that's your habit, for example, and needing to break out of those habits. And the South Node is on a parrot listening and then talking, repeats a conversation he has overheard. This is almost the same thing as that trained bear. And in fact, they both talk about animals, but here the parrot is just listening and repeating what someone else said, right? That's what a parrot does. So It's taking those things, those habits, and breaking away, having a whole new you emerge and break away from those patterns. Quite intense activations more than likely on that day for Lughnasad. And then Lionsgate on 8/8. So we have the sun now coming into the leg of that fixed grand cross. And of course, the full moon is on the 11th. So that's going to be happening for several days as the sun comes into position. And the sun is our vitality, our life force, our identity. So with the sun moving into position here, this again, I feel is backing up or solidifying who we are becoming and becoming more accustomed to this new identity that we're creating. And at the same time, we have Venus opposing Pluto on the 8/8 portal. And so, again, doing some kind of shadow work, especially around love or finances, could be something that's important. And so, I want to mention too, going back to the Chiron square Venus, Venus is going to be in Cancer, and that could be bringing up some family situations as well. Some kind of something that needs healing around your inner child, for example, that could very well be related to, your old patterns, your projections, all those things that we've been talking about. A lot of that comes from our inner child. So it's probably a good time to make some kind of connections, have some aha moments. But again, with Venus opposing Pluto, shadow, um, painful situations, that could be a time where those regrets between twin flames could be coming out as well. So then on the full moon in Aquarius on August 11th, we have the sun and the moon moving into position and triggering that fixed cross configuration yet again. So this time the sun and the moon are at 19 degrees, Leo and Aquarius. Now, union is going to be very close to the moon, less than a degree away from the moon. And okay, what I'm getting is that this is going to be the most intense time for that kind of, what's the word I want to use? Where twins might be feeling the separation from each other strongly. So when we have a full moon in Aquarius, right, the sun is in Leo. As I said, that's about our creativity. And we're going to be looking at what we need to release around our creativity. As part of creating the new us, we have to let go of the things that are blocking us from who we are. And a lot of that's going to be around that collective, not collective energy, but what other people think. Because a lot of times when we have a creative gift, and we all have creative gifts, but we don't always share them. And the reason why we don't share them is because we're worried about what other people are going to say, what other people are going to think. Are they going to judge us? Are they not going to like what we do? So that's going to be the big push that's happening here at this full moon. It's time to move through that. Another thing that could come up at the full moon here is there could be some release of repressed emotions. Now, again, a lot of you will have made some connections between what you're clearing in yourself and how this relates to your repressed emotions. But there could be some triggers happening with the full moon, with the moon being in Aquarius and the sun being in Leo. Now, Aquarius can relate to trauma, but also Aquarius is a very non emotional sign. It's a sign that, kind of naturally tends to repress its emotions or tends to choose logic over emotions. And yeah, what's interesting too is that the co-rulers of Aquarius, Uranus and Saturn, are square, and the moon is, setting off that aspect. So again, it's like the old you or the new you. Are you going to go with what other people might say about you, or are you going to go with what you truly want? But yeah, at any rate, in order to get that, we've got to start unpacking repressed emotions. And I think that has already been getting triggered. But again, if you're in resistance to things, then the kind of triggering will get more intense until you start to unpack those repressed emotions. Now, Mars is also still in that configuration, and it's just going to be an intense time. Again, because it's that tension, because you have Saturn, Uranus, and square, and you have all these other planets triggering that. But maybe I don't necessarily want to say that it's like tension between the old you or the new you, because I feel like everybody wants to step into the new. There might be fear, but they still want the new. And I don't necessarily feel like Saturn is wholly kind of just representing the old us here or the old karma. I feel like Saturn is more in a position to help us ground the new us, to kind of make it some kind of tangible energy. So, yeah, maybe we could look at Saturn a couple of different ways here. I hope you have a wonderful Lion's Gate. If you would like to connect with me for a reading, my website is Twinstrology. Sending you all a lot of love, and I will speak to you again soon.